Hello everybody, welcome back to Toy Stew. Well, I'm not going to have Arthur for dinner, which it might look like. Arthur came to me, it's secondhand, and I got him in about a few days ago. And I noticed that he looks like he might have a slipping, I call it an axle gear. So when the wheels are running and you put some pressure on them, they just stop. And this has happened to me before with Stepney. And what I ended up doing is having to take the guy apart and super glue the axle gear back onto the axle. And what I thought I'd show is how to take Arthur apart. Arthur and Stepney are a little bit different in the way they come apart. So I thought, and Arthur's a little bit more complicated. So I thought I'd show you what I'm doing here. Now if you have the same problem, you might be able to work on it. And if you haven't taken anything apart before, especially one of these little engines, you may, if you're young, if you haven't taken things apart and worked on stuff, you might want to get a grown-up to help you. If you have, just be careful and kind of try to remember the steps you go through. You might want to even record it on your smartphone or take pictures, and so you kind of remember all the steps. But on Arthur, his screw to get to the battery is this one in the back left corner. So let's get this out. All right, came apart easy. So we take his battery out, and underneath the battery compartment, there's two more screws. And these are all going to be, it's called Phillips head screws. And this is just a much smaller one. And these are much smaller screws. So, and I've already taken this apart once, so it's actually a little bit easier than if you take it apart for the first time. Because these screws in the battery compartment were really hard to get going out of where they were. All right. That's loose. And then, I guess maybe I should have done these first. It doesn't really matter, but. So these screws. So the two back screws. So as you think you got it all the way, and there's a little bit more to go. There we go. The screwdriver is magnetized, so the screw's going to stick to it. In this motor, give you a good look at it. Kind of pull it up from the back. And so this, we've already unscrewed this battery compartment section, and it'll all come off. I made the mistake of trying to pull on this motor. Couldn't figure out why it wouldn't come out. And one of these terminals is actually soldered on there, so it's all connected. It's all one long piece there. And you might can see why I'm working on a paper plate, so I don't lose my screws, and everything's kind of easy to find. Alright, so that exposes this, the axle, the wheels, and there's a little axle gear. You can actually see, if I can get it close enough, where this little plastic gear has split. And apparently it's a pretty common problem with these. If they get a lot of heavy play, these things will crack and just start. If they get pressure put on them, they'll kind of roll around the track pretty well. But if they hit something, or if you're doing a strongest competition there at home, you'll notice that they're very weak. So once we get this glued back on, it should be a lot stronger. And these little plastic pieces will just come off of this front axle. Stepney's a little bit different. If you've had to take a Stepney apart, you know getting these wheels off is a little bit of a more of a struggle. So what I'm going to do is, this looks like it's kind of dirty, and it might have a little bit of grease on there. So you can see this little part of the axle is grooved. So at the factory, I'm guessing, when they put these on, there's somebody or a machine who just kind of presses these axle gears on top of that grooved, kind of a toothed section there. And then they call it done. Put it on to the next part of the toy. So what'll happen eventually, like I said, with heavy play, these things will get loose. The little plastic gear will crack, because that's the weak point there. And it'll just spin if this engine's under any kind of, if it hits up against something or hits another engine, these wheels will just spin. So what I'll do, I'm going to get a bowl and put some water and then some dishwashing liquid soap in there. And I'm going to let this soak overnight just to take all the grease off. And, if you really wanted to get going, you could just clean it off much quicker than that, but I've got some time, so I'm going to let this soak overnight just to get all the grease off. And that way I'm going to super glue this, and that way the glue is going to have a much better chance of getting a tighter grip on there. And this is also a good opportunity if there's any, you find some hairs and call it carpet fur and all kinds of stuff, depending on where the toy's been. But once we get this glued back on, so I'll super glue this little groove section, slide this gear back on, and that thing will be good as new. I did it on Stepney and he's still running good, so I don't know if it'll last forever, but it'll last for a long time. It should anyways. So that's the next step. I'm going to soak this in some water and dishwashing liquid just to get all the grease off of here. So next time you see me, this should all be cleaned up and we'll be ready to do some gluing. So, okay, well, I'm back. Let me show you or explain to you what I've done. I didn't soak it for overnight like I thought I was going to do. What I did is got a bowl, filled it up about halfway with water, put a little dishwashing liquid in there. Wasn't hot water or anything, just regular tap water. Mixed it up, got it soapy. Got an old toothbrush, cleaned all this off. This axle gear will move back and forth once you get it off of this grooved area here. And just kind of brushed it off as good as I could, got all the gunk off. And that's kind of the whole point of washing this, is get the grease and dirt off of here. So my next step, and then I let it, what I did was, I actually let it soak for maybe 2 hours in the soapy water. Then I rinsed it off very well. Then I just let it dry overnight. So that's where I am now. I'm back, and I'm going to put some couple of drops of super glue here on this, whatever you want to call it, grooved toothed area here on the axle. The point for that is that super glue will get in between all these little nooks and crannies and grooves. Then I'm going to slide the gear back over and let it set. And super glue will, let it cure I should say. Super glue will set really fast, but to let it cure so it gets the maximum holding power, they recommend that you leave it overnight or 24 hours and just let it get to its full hardness, its full state of good bonding. So that's what I'm going to do. So okay, I just got some generic super glue. I think I got this at the dollar store. It's all, as far as I know, it's all the same stuff. Cyanoacrylate. Pronounce it? Cyanoacrylate. Sometimes I can pronounce it, sometimes I can't. Now, if you've never worked with super glue before, you definitely want a grown-up to help you out. Even if you have worked with it before and you're not feeling totally confident about it, get a grown-up to help you out. This stuff can get your fingers stuck together, or your finger to your kneecap, or your cheek, or your chin. So it's not something to mess around with. This super glue will stick skin to skin. So you definitely want to be careful when you're gluing stuff up with this. So that's my cautionary warning. Just be very careful. You don't want to squeeze out a big glob of it. I'm probably 2 drops here. Maybe more. See how it's flowing here. Let's do 3. Just kind of spread it around. And 4. Alright, that's enough. So I got the super glue on that grooved toothed area. Just kind of want to make sure it actually gets into those grooves. I'm going to slide the gear back onto that area. Just kind of back and forth. Alright, I think that's going to do it. Bring it back just a little bit more. You maybe can see where that plastic split. Not sure if you can get that. But, so it seems to be a common problem, and it's already set. So what I'm going to do is let this cure for 24 hours, and then I'm going to attach everything back together, and it should be good to go. Alrighty, so I'll be back in no time for you guys. It'll be tomorrow for me, so see you in a little bit. Okay, well, it's been overnight, and I've let the super glue cure. Give this a little test. It is really fastened in there now, so this should make Arthur much stronger. Let's get him back together. If I can remember my sequence here. The gear part on the left. In. Get the motor and little battery section back on. This motor has a little tab which corresponds to opening down there. So in theory, I should be able to get this in there. There we go. Press the back, get that back in there. Alright. Get the motor screws in. Use the bigger screwdriver for this. Alright. Now let's give this thing a test. Positive side towards the motor. It's a lot more kind of hard to tell if he's any better off. We'll give him a little, a little test here. I think what is happening is after a certain amount of resistance, that gear, there's another gear inside of the motor that will release itself so it doesn't break. But although it doesn't seem like it, I think he is stronger than before. Let's get his top on. So I'm screwing in this is the screw you take out to put the battery in. Just screwing that back in. You can hear that kind of clunking sound. But let's give him a test here with another engine. Alright, we'll do a Arthur versus, let's do Percy. Okay, we'll just do a little strength test here. Whoa. Oops. No, Arthur seems fine. Against Percy anyways. Let's do one more. Let's do Arthur, Dennis. These are both Tomys. And they're the old classic. But Dennis has the better hand on that one. It's still pretty even. Arthur takes that one. Dennis takes that one. That was pretty even. Dennis takes it in the end. Arthur's coming back. So these guys are pretty even. Okay. Although my little demonstration doing it this way didn't seem like it was helping much. The strength test against the other engines convinces me that Arthur's doing much better than he was. One more. Arthur takes it. Okay, so there's fixing Arthur. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it helps you out. As long as you don't play too hard, too rough with these toys, they're going to be fine. And if the gear does start slipping again, you just get back in there and glue it up again. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me here on Toy Stew. Arthur says thanks for the repair. You're welcome, Arthur. So we'll see y'all next time. Be sure if you like this, give a thumbs up and subscribe, comment, leave a request, all that good stuff, and share. All right, we'll see you next time here on Toy Stew. Bye-bye.